If you are looking for one of the most natural legends to play in all of Apex Legends that is also one of the best, then you are in the right spot today, as we are looking to get you on your way to mastering the speedster himself. Octane's speed and natural playstyle allows him to excel in nearly all formats of Apex Legends, from pub stomping in the Battle Royale to the top tier play of both ranked modes. We are going to go over all of his abilities, show off some examples of how to use them, and rank him in the current meta, and much, much more. As with all of our master guides on the channel, be sure to check out my pinned comment down below for any and all changes to Octane since the launch of this video. Legends rarely, if ever, go through major changes from season to season, and this guide is going to be relevant for quite some time. If it isn't, I will let you know down there. Let's begin by going over Octane's fairly simple kit of abilities that actually have a pretty high skill ceiling when it does come to using them effectively. For starters, Octane's passive ability is Swift Mend. This passive restores Octane's health passively when he is not taking damage at the rate of 1 health per second. Octane's tactical is the stim, which gives him a massive speed boost of 30% when walking, 40% when sprinting for about 6 seconds. This tactical does cost you 20 health per use and has virtually no cooldown, allowing for rapid spamming of the stim if needed at the cost of a good amount of your health if you are spamming it. Finally, Octane's ultimate ability is the Launch Pad, which is exactly what it sounds like, a pad that can be used every 90 seconds that Octane can't throw down on the ground that allows anyone that hits it to get launched through the air. At a basic level, if you slide or crouch when hitting the pad, you will get launched a little bit further horizontally, and if you walk or run onto the pad, you will get launched a little bit more vertically. Second to this is that when you are flying, you are able to jump again to perform a double jump when in the air to get a little bit more distance or height out of your jump. That is all of Octane's abilities at a basic level. Do not be fooled though, as there's quite a bit you can do with his kit of abilities. Be sure to hit that like button to support the video. If you have any questions, stop by Twitch where I do stream, and I would love to chat with you about Octane or anything else Apex related. Let's now roll into the playstyles, or my how to use Octane portion of the video, where we have a ton to break down. Let's once again start with a bit of Octane's passive, since it is the simplest of the 3 abilities. Since we are getting passive health regeneration, you will find it that you will never really need to manually heal up when you are near full health. For me, this really is when I am around 70 or so health. This means in about 30 seconds I will be maxed out, and I don't find this amount of health to be too bad to be missing if someone does start to fight me. Anything under this though, I will debate syringing up, especially if I am near enemies. I do not want to get caught off guard when I'm something like 50 health and then I'm getting ripped down to even lower because I stim too much. Also, if I want to make a push, I don't want to pop a stim around 70 health and get down to 50, because this is just a little bit too low to be going into a fight. The second thing is that since I am getting health regeneration passively, you do not need to necessarily run as many syringes. I personally don't adjust my inventory when running Octane, but this is something you should be aware of. My usual recommendation is no more than 4 syringes. Besides those couple little things, that's kind of it for Octane's passive. Moving on, the speed boost from Octane's tactical ability allows him to unlock a lot of little tricks that can make a huge difference in the game. Starting with some of the basics, there's a few movement tricks that you should be aware of. The first is going to be wall jumping while stimmed can be much more effective. This speed boost transfers into a wall jump, and if you're using it properly, you really can dive on opponents with a whole nother level of effectiveness. Second is that bunny hopping is also much easier when you are stimmed, because you are able to more easily keep up that momentum. I find this to be a little bit more useful than wall jumping, as it can really be great to get into a fight and then be bunny hopping your way out of it with some extra survivability that most other legends just can't contend with. Keeping with this, Octane is actually one of the few legends that can still semi-effectively bunny hop while healing when he is stimmed. To do this, all you need to do is simply stim, go into a slide jump, and then start popping a healing item while going into your hops. This is pretty nice, and it's something that all Octane should learn, as you can really heal up quite rapidly at another level that, again, most legends just can't contend with. This is even more true if you are running the gold armor on Octane, which we will get to in a little bit. The next tip is all about getting a free stim, as some like to call it. While popping a Phoenix kit or a med kit right before it is finished, pop your stim ability. This will more or less allow you to get the full effectiveness of a stim without losing any health, since you are already getting full health from your Phoenix or your medkit. This can also work with gold armor and syringes, but not quite as effectively as the others, I would say. If you are unaware, when you do activate that stim ability, it actually cancels the majority of stun and slowdown effects. This is a small tip, but it's something that can be crucially important, as there's a lot of abilities that will cause you to slow down. Just to name a few, we have Watson's Fences, Caustic Gas, Valkyrie's Tactical, and even such things as Bangalore's Ultimate. And of course, There are arc stars that also stun and slow you down for a brief moment, so if you get hit by any of these abilities, pop your stim immediately after getting hit to make a speedy escape. Of course though, this is not going to cancel the slow effects of healing items. Next is more of something just to be aware of as Octane, and that is while you are stimmed, the visual recoil for any pistol, such as the Wingman, will be increased. This can make it a little bit harder to use these guns when you are stimmed. This is only a visual thing though, so technically they will still perform the same, but it could be harder for you to track the enemy. So when should you actually be stimming? When is the most effective time to stim? One of my favorite and probably one of the more underrated moments is to stim right off the drop. Being able to stim around and get loot faster than others cannot be underestimated. The faster you are at getting those weapons or better shields means you will be better prepared for the early game. I, however, will almost never stim more than twice in a row. Stimming a third time in succession means cutting into about 60 of your health, which for me is just way too much, especially in the early game when that is almost half of your health. If I know enemies are around, then I will limit my stim to just once or maybe even none so I can use it for an engagement. This brings us to how you should be stimming in fights. The most obvious is going to be stimming into and out of fights depending on the situation. Stimming while making a push is one of my favorite things to do, as it will allow you to enter your enemy's visual range at speeds that make you much harder to hit and track, because you are simply moving at an unfamiliar speed compared to other legends. Once actively in a gunfight, I will not really stim unless the enemy is trying to disengage and run away. I don't want to lose another 20 of my health by my own doing, and if anything, I want that passive health regeneration to start kicking in. If a fight does go poorly and I need to disengage, I may stim out. It kind of depends on if I have cover to give me some protection from gunfire. If I do have cover, I will probably just run away, and if I do not, then I might drop a launch pad and get out of there. This is going to bring us to our final thing to note about Octane Stim, and this is going to be stimming when you are less than 15 or so health. This means you are going to be absolute and you're already on the brink of death. I like to stim when I am this very low health because honestly, it isn't hurting anything by doing so. I'm already one shot, so why not take being one shot with an extra speed boost? You might as well do it. You may have a chance to get away. If possible, try to battery before you stim. This way you'll at least have full shields, and it will let you have a little bit more safety when you are stimming from low health. Basically, I'm just saying that you shouldn't be afraid to pop that stim in desperation mode because you already have very little to lose, literally. Finally, we are going to have Octane's pad, and I hope you are ready because there is a wild amount of things that you can do with the pad and a ton of little tricks that you should have in the back of your pocket. Starting with the basics, there are two trajectories that you can launch off of the pad with. When you hit the pad from a standing, so running or walking onto it, you will have a much higher launch, which will allow you to get height a bit easier. Second to this is hitting the pad from a crouched or sliding position. If you hit that launch pad like this, it will launch you in a much more horizontal type of way, and you will get a lot more distance out of the pad, making you a bit harder to hit as you do arc through the air with a much lower and faster type of speed. This second way is the way you will more than likely be using the pad the most of the time. One thing a ton of players don't realize is that you actually launch the same distance whether you're crouching and just walking onto the pad, sliding onto the pad, or even stimming while sliding onto the pad. All three of these ways will launch you the same distance, which means a few things. For one, you do not always need a running head start when you hit the pad. This is great if you're in more enclosed areas or areas where the pad is a bit harder to hit. Simply crouch walk onto the pad and you will go flying. Second to this is that stimming while hitting the pad really isn't the optimal way to do it. The only thing this is going to do is lower your health, and you are going to end up going the same distance no matter what. And on top of this, your stim is going to be running out by the time you're ending your fly through the air. Instead, the most optimal time to be stimming is actually at the end of your flight. Stim just before hitting the ground, and this will allow you to more rapidly engage in a fight or disengage instead of just wasting it when you are hitting the pad. If you are unaware, Octane can actually get a vertical bounce on the pad that allows him to kind of be the lookout in some situations. To get a purely vertical bounce, stand next to the launch pad and use your melee. Do not hit your movement keys or stick at all, and you will be able to bounce straight up and down. Once in the air, and once again, you cannot do any movement, but you can look around and try to find enemies. This is actually pretty underrated. It's pretty good to locate enemies this way, and honestly, if you're trying to throw some grenades on enemies, this is a pretty good way to do it. Similar to the previous tip, you can also actually use that launch pad to go backwards while using the melee technique. When standing next to a pad, hit your melee button, and as soon as you are doing this, hold backwards to get a backwards launch. This is really great to do when your pad is stuck in the corner of a building or on the corner of a wall where you can't get around it to get the proper launch. You will also have a much lower launch if you are meleeing while you are crouched. So keep this in mind, and depending on the situation, crouch for a further launch or stand for a little bit higher. The final pure movement tip with the pad is going to be that you can actually just jump on the edge of the pad to send yourself backwards. This is similar to the melee technique, but just jump on the very edge of the pad while holding backwards to get launched. This technique is a little bit harder to execute flawlessly, but it can be done much quicker than having the melee reverse launch. If you're unaware, throwables will launch off the pad as well. You can throw grenades or other items such as Legends abilities onto the pad and they will launch off. This isn't totally useful, but it can have some use cases and it's something that you should be aware of. So when should you actually use the launch pad? Well, there's a few obvious cases for us to talk about. The most important is going to be launching into fight and dropping at enemies. While you are flying through the air, you are virtually silent, which can be extremely powerful when landing on unsuspecting teams. Second to this, since there are a ton of Octanes in Apex right now, I often try to find an existing launch pad to get into a fight with. This allows me to save my launch pad for emergency situations. When you are playing Octane, you're going to learn that it is very easy to get into fights and be overextended to the point where you might have made a mistake. This is when launch padding out of danger can be quite valuable. A quick pad slide out of danger while popping a battery into a bunny hop can be the most clutch play you will ever make, and it'll make you feel like an absolute badass. Another great way to use the pad is to get high ground that more or less the enemies will not be able to get to. This helps you get advantageous positioning that can be really great, especially in ranked. Launch pads only have 200 health, so if you are in a really great spot, or even if you are making a push into a fight, don't be afraid to destroy your or other Octane's pads to prevent them from engaging you. Something that I like to do is to weaken the pad and then throw a grenade next to it as I am taking off, something like an arc star or a frag grenade. This will help prevent enemies from chasing me since the pad will be destroyed after I launch off of it. Octane's pad comes back quite quickly every 90 seconds, so do not be afraid to use that pad just for rotating around the map. This is especially true if you are playing with a ton of legends that lack movement. Some legends like Watson or Caustic can really benefit from this a ton. Finally, don't be afraid just to use that pad to get your knocked teammates out of danger. Even knocked enemies will get launched pretty far, and it can be useful to save the squad. Those are the majority of the ability tips for Octane. However, we are not done yet. If you are running Octane, do not be afraid to give the gold helmet to your teammates before scooping it up for yourself. Octane's tactical has no cooldown, which pretty much makes the helmet useless for the tactical. That being said, the helmet is still nice to get launch pads back quicker, so it is okay to take it if you are in a desperate situation, or if you are noticing that you do need a pad to come back quicker than your other abilities. Second to this is that I actually prefer the gold armor on Octane almost over any other legend in the game. Octane is an aggressive legend that can really benefit from a quick 50 shield or syringe heal that the armor will give you. Do not underestimate the ability to stim into a fight, do some damage, get a knock, pop a quick shield cell, and then keep the action going. Similarly, you can almost pop a shield cell completely when you are in the air and you are padding away. Gold armor is just so good for Octane. Give it a try. If you are Octane, be mindful of how much separation you are getting from the squad. Don't run too far away to the point where you are a detriment to the team. Overextending is so easy to do as Octane, and I hate to see Octanes running off that I want to support, but I just physically am unable to keep up to them due to my Legends restrictions. It is 100% the Octane's responsibility to be mindful of the squad and to either give them a pad to help their movement and or slow it down so the squad can have the best chances they can. I know it's tough because the speed is a blast, but be mindful and self-aware of your movements. When we look at the legends to pair up with Octane, there are quite a few options. Again, every legend that lacks movement is going to benefit greatly from that launch pad. However, another legend like Crypto will benefit quite a bit as you can do a Crypto EMP and then pad onto the enemies immediately after getting hit by this. It allows for a lot of creative and aggressive playmaking that will help out this slightly less mobile legend. Of course, though, I would not be doing Octane justice if I didn't recommend Revenant. Revtane, as some like to call it, is one of, if not the most brokenly good combo in the game. Drop that Revenant ultimate and then launch pad onto enemy squads with a free push to try and wipe them. If you fail, no worries, you get to just do it all over again because they're already weak. This combo makes for a very satisfying and fun playstyle experience at the cost of the enemy's enjoyment and, of course, your soul. Other than that, a lot of legends will benefit from Octane's pad, so definitely try out a lot of different combos. So how does Octane stack up in Arena? Well, no surprise, he is still a top tier contender in Arena, and in my opinion, someone you should absolutely be looking at. The close quarters gameplay can benefit to Octane because of that stim ability, and on the larger maps, he still has that launch pad to launch on an enemy team to get an advantageous positioning or just outduel the enemy. Honestly, his passive might be one of the more underrated things for Arena too, since healing items can be tough to come come by if a round is being drawn out. Octane is for sure a must look at in Arena, so do not sleep on him here as well. So why would you pick Octane? What does he bring to the table that other legends do not quite have? Well, the truth of the matter is that Octane is one of, if not the highest picked legends for a good reason. For most, he is fun to play. And this paired up with his simplicity makes him a very approachable legend for new players to pick up. Octane, in my opinion, is the #1 recommended legend that players should be getting to unlock first, because his playstyle will help you learn one of Apex Legends' most valuable skills, and that is going to be movement and the ability to just focus on gun skills, since his abilities are quite simple to learn. If we look past this, his kit is still all about movement and aggressive playmaking, and Apex Legends is absolutely this type of game right now. This makes him an easy pickup not only for pub and ranked players, but also pro teams competing at the top tier level of the game. Octane is just a valuable asset to any team at any skill level. Until, you run off on your own without communication, steal the loot, get knocked, ping rapidly, die, then you start screaming into the microphone, blaming your inadequacies on others while you're backing out into the lobby faster than the TTV rates. So where does Octane rank in the current meta of Apex Legends? Well, until they do something drastic with either the stim or the pad, he is going to be a top 3 legend in Apex Legends. He will be getting a small nerf to the pad in the coming days, but a 10 to 15% reduction in the pad distance is a fairly small change in my opinion. Octane is just so good. He's going to be good after that little nerf. And for me, he is close to being the best legend in the game in the hands of a good player, and he will probably be one of the hardest legends to go up against if an Octane knows what they are doing. Octane has come a long way from his Season 1 launch, and he continues to be a legend that you absolutely need to be using. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of Octane and what legend should we revisit next. If you are unaware, we have done a legend guide for every legend in the game, and that playlist is in the corner of your screen or in the description down below. If you want more content, links to my Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, and more are also down there. If you are ever looking for people to squad up with or just want someone to talk to about Apex Legends, hop into our community Discord. We would love to have you there. And until next time, happy gaming, legends.